everybody. Welcome back to Aliens and Angels. Today, I want to talk a bit more about my own experience. And I thought I've already talked a little bit about where the big ship hangs out and what some of the ET people are like. But I thought today I would actually get more into the big ship and how it operates, the different aspects of the big ship. Is it serviced by people? Is it like a Star Trek example? That kind of thing. So I thought I would just sort of get into that today. So welcome back to the show. And as usual, please feel free to leave your questions, any questions you might have in the comments below this video. And I will address those questions at a later date on the show. Sorry, my mouth isn't working today. So I think probably it would be good for me to just show you a diagram that it doesn't really do justice to the situation, but for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, it will give you a bit of an idea on where the big ship is, because people are always asking me, Karen, is it from the Palladian system? Is it from the Sirius system? Is it outside of our solar system? Where is the big ship? And up until actually quite recently, I wasn't really sure. And I'm not going to make stuff up, because if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. But then what was really interesting was now it's been over a month ago, I guess. I was doing some deep meditation and I was asking my guides, where is the big ship? How can I tell people where the big ship is located? And so I was basically given the idea of a Venn diagram. And I then went on the internet looking for images that most closely related what I saw in vision. And this is what I came up with. So I'm just going to screen share for a moment. And here is the image. So this is a Venn diagram. And a Venn diagram can represent anything, people, places, things, anything. But I'm using it in this instance to illustrate where the big ship is and how it's possible to interface with many different types of beings in very different parts of what we might consider our galaxy, or even the universe, or even the multiverse, or even the omniverse. Just so you know, I've got a kitty cat in the room with me, and he's acting up a bit. So if I have to pause again, that would be why. So getting back to this Venn diagram, you'll see a series of ovals. They are marked A, B, C, D, and E. And each oval represents a dimensional reality, a spot on the timeline, coordinates within the multiverse or the omniverse even. So when I say there is the universe, which is what we have kind of come to understand, that we are within a solar system that's within a star quadrant that is within a galaxy, and that galaxy is within the universe. But more recently, in more recent years, we've come to understand, and this is supported by my experience, that we actually live in a multiverse, which means that there are multiple, if not infinite, numbers of Karens on Earth, very much like this one, or maybe a little bit different, and proceeding with my life and perceiving my journey, my life journey. And then and that would go for all of us. So there are many, many Earths, many, many, many solar systems involving Earth, the Earths. Boy, it's hard to say that, Earths with this S on the end. There are many, many, universes full, teeming with life, although some less than others. And then, of course, there's what we call the omniverse. And the omniverse includes what we would consider the many physical universes, as well as the whole spiritual realms and spiritual domains that exist and coexist with the rest. So it includes the physical and the non-physical and the interdimensional aspects of reality. So each of these A, B, C, D, and E, each of these ovals represents either a universe or a galaxy or an interdimensional reality that may not be three-dimensional, and they overlap each other. Now, in this case, the diagram only shows you 5, but there's actually infinite numbers of these Venn diagrams. Well, I guess they're not Venn diagrams. Infinite number of these ovals that would overlap. And each of these realities is not even really an oval. I'm just using that as an illustration. So I'm trying to bring clarity to concepts that are fairly abstract, really. And so we're going to deal with just 5 for the sake of the illustration today. And so you'll see that there's overlap. So there's places where A and B overlap. There's places where A and C overlap. There's places where A and D overlap, and there's places where A and E overlap. And the same would go for each of these ovals. They overlap in different places. And this is just the natural way that our reality works. And you'll notice in the center is where all of them overlap. So you'll see A, B, C, D, and E. They all overlap in that space. And it would be in that space where the big ship is situated. Now, all of these realities are not even separate. They're all happening at the same time, and they're all happening in the here and now. So we don't need time and we don't need distance when we're thinking about the different dimensional realities, the different timelines, the different universes, and then, of course, there's all the spiritual realms. So this is a very, very simplistic design just to help you get the gist of what I'm talking about. And that's where the big ship is. And that makes a lot of sense because there are beings there from all different realities. And we get there not by traveling through distance or time, we just go there. It's very, very interesting. And the big ship itself, it doesn't travel. It never goes from point A to point D or anything like that. It stays in the same place, but point A will become point B. And it's very interesting, but very hard to describe in ordinary English. So there's a little diagram just to get us started. So just so you know, the big ship would be situated somewhere in the center here, even though this diagram, really does not do justice to the whole idea of reality and even non-physical reality. So I'm just going to close that for now. So the big ship is absolutely conscious. It's a living thing. It's a living being in its own right. And it would have to be in order to interface with the other realities and the other dimensional realities. Sorry, just going to have a drink. Wet my whistle. It's very hot out today and it's a little drying, so pardon my voice. So the big ship, like I said, is alive. It's made out of organic material. I don't know exactly every aspect of how it functions and how it works, but I'll try to explain some of the basics to you today. So when I was doing my orientation process, that's when I really got the knowing that the big ship was alive. And it was at the beginning of orientation. We were in kind of a large gathering room. And I noticed that the walls looked very soft, like leather, like a really soft kind of leather. And so did the floor and the ceiling. And there was no division between ceiling and walls and floor. Everything nothing on the big ship is square or angular that I saw, unless we had an intention of needing something that was square or, rectangular or geometric in some way. Now, on the West Coast, I know I'm a little bit all over the place because it's a lot of information I'm trying to give to you in as logical order as I can. So on the West Coast of Canada, there are First Nations tribes that you probably are familiar with the concept of the totem pole. And all the shapes in the West Coast native art include what they call ovoids. And an ovoid, and I'm sorry, I don't have an image ready to show you, but you can Google what's an ovoid. An ovoid is actually a circle, but it's kind of flattened on the bottom and more rounded on the top. But it still has all smooth, circular, and no edges to it. And that's very much the way the rooms, the corridors, everything was shaped in ovoid fashion rather than in like square walls and rooms the way we understand them to be. So anyway, I noticed that it was like a soft, kind of a creamy colored like leather, very soft kind of leather. And I went up to the wall and I actually ran my finger down the wall, not pressing too hard, just ran my finger down the wall because I was trying to get a sense of what this material was that the wall was made out of. And to my surprise, there was a little kind of like ripples that just flowed out from where my on either side of where my finger ran down. And so the wall actually reacted to me touching it. And I thought that was super interesting. And of course, I wanted to learn more. Later on, I learned that the ship is not only fully conscious, it's also fully telepathic. And so we can communicate with the ship very, very easily. And all the information is stored somehow on the big ship. Now, I don't know if it has a brain or what. I'm pretty sure it would not have computers and things like that. Like I said, it was not at all like a Star Trek experience. Well, some aspects were, and I'll get into that in later podcasts, especially the economics. And I'm going to speak to, religion, politics, economics, those aspects of how it's different on the big ship than here on Earth, and of course different from the Star Trek experience. But you don't have people sitting around at these desks with all these light panels, pushing buttons all over, making adjustments. There's none of that. It's all just direct communication to and from the big ship because we don't speak language there. We use telepathy. So that was pretty interesting. And apparently the big ship has to be that way in order for it to do what it does, which is facilitating the work that is being done on the big ship. So the big ship is also massive. Like I would say about the size of New York City or maybe San Francisco. I would not say as big as some of the really huge mega cities that you find in China or possibly Russia, but definitely in the American context, very big. And I would say that probably, I don't know, but millions of beings live on the big ship. And there's, of course, people coming to and leaving from all the time as well. So getting back to the actual physical structure, because the ship is telepathic, the other thing that was really interesting about it, and I cannot explain how it works, like in our terminology, I think of it possibly being a bit like nanotechnology, like self-assembling nanotechnology, but there's no pixelation or anything like that. It's like the whole ship has the capacity to provide us with whatever we need for our comfort and for the goings-on that we have on the big ship. So because of that, there's no like set rooms that are your quarters or set rooms that is your washroom or set rooms that are like for meetings. It doesn't work like that. When you need your quarters, you just go to a certain area because obviously we can't all manifest the same quarters in the same place. There is some spatial reality to being on the big ship, but basically it self-assembles to what we need when we need it. So when we need a washroom, a door just appears, we go in, the door closes behind us. It's absolutely seamless. So there's no outline of where the door is going to be or where it was. It's absolutely seamless. There's no buttons to push, nothing like that. And so I guess I'll get into my quarters. So it was during my orientation that my buddy We were walking down a hallway, and all of a sudden, she just stopped. And so I stopped. And at that point, it was not at all proficient with the telepathy. In fact, I would not even say that I'm really proficient at it even today, but I did get much better at it through time. And again, for those of you who are just joining us for the first time on the show and haven't heard much of the backstory, this experience, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. It's so hot. Sorry. So anyway, I'll just get back to my quarters. So anyway, so a door just appeared. We went in, and then I was in a room, not very big. I would say about like, of course, it's not square, but approximately 10 by 10, maybe 12 by 12 at the biggest, not very big at all, because we don't spend a lot of time, in our quarters. And so anyway, she motioned to the wall, and I looked down, and sort of a platform just sort of came out from the wall, and up from the platform just formed like, I don't know, like a big cushion that was kind of not super high, but definitely longer and wider than myself. And she just motioned to it. They do use some gesturing, and I laid down on it, and it was super comfortable. And I immediately knew that these were my quarters, and this is where I would come if I needed rest, or I just needed some time away from it all to process. Oh, that was what I was going to say before this. Okay, so there's a time dilation. I don't know if it's because the ship is located between or amongst many different dimensional realities. I don't know exactly why it is the way it is, but sorry, I shouldn't even be making this video today. I'm pretty hot. But because of that, it's able to just give us everything that we need. And okay, sorry, getting back to the time dilation. So I was gone at night. I'd go to bed at night, and I'd wake up in the morning, same bed that I went to sleep in the night before. But I was gone every night for 3 months, every single night for 3 months. It just abruptly started, and then it abruptly ended. But my adventures away was very much more like 3.5 years. So for instance, when I went the first time, I went and I was involved in the orientation process. And that evening I was, well, they don't have day and night. Okay. So, but there are time cycles that we all, benefit from. Let's just put it that way. And I was worried because I had a kitty at home that needed my attention. And I didn't know really 100% what was even happening at that point. But my buddy let me know that I would be back in the morning. Don't worry about it. But the weird thing is while I was away, so I'm on Earth, sleeping in my bed, and while I'm away, I'm having days, nights, weeks, months. They don't calculate time and everything the way we do. I'm just putting it into those terms so that you get a bit of a gist on how it was. Of course, there's no day, there's no night, but we do have certain cycles that benefit all of us, that help us to look after our circadian rhythms and things like that. So anyway, so I'm in my quarters, and so then I got to see, where I was going to be sleeping, and that was pretty good. And I got up from there, and I needed to pee, and that's how come I know I'm there physically. So it's very strange. Like, I can go there etherically, no problem. I can do that through deep meditation. But this particular time, I was not aware of any of this. I was just kind of going with the flow and not really knowing what was going to happen. But I experienced periods of sleep, periods of being awake, partaking in meals, eating, all kinds of physical things that I don't see how I could do that if I wasn't in some kind of a physical body. I know a lot of this is not going to make sense. And the other thing I want to be really clear about is I don't expect you to believe me. Not at all. But I would like it if you at least paid attention to what I'm saying, and perhaps it will motivate you to do the things you need to do so that you can have your own contact because I'm nobody special. I don't have secret talents or anything like this. I do have some intergenerational experience with ET contact. Definitely my mother's mother, very much. And of course, it seemed to be passed on to myself. So anyway, I became aware that I had to go to the bathroom, and my buddy knew because she's very proficient at telepathy, and she just motioned to a place, on the wall, and I went up to it, and a door immediately formed, and I went through, and it closed seamlessly behind me. And I looked down, and out from the floor again came a bit of a platform, and from the platform, a tube that was about, trying to get my camera angle right, maybe about like this, oval shaped. And it had like pleats in it as it came up. And it ended up being about, well, basically the same height as my butt. And I went to the bathroom in it. And I was really actually surprised, because I thought, like we're used to using toilet paper and all that other jazz. Well, you don't have to do that there. I don't exactly know how it works. But after you're done doing your business, there's a little you can feel a little poof of air. And whatever it is, it completely dries and cleans and whatever that area of your body. And then the tube just sinks back down, and the platform just goes back into the wall. It's really, really slick. So, of course, they don't use toilet paper on the big ship. And so I thought that was pretty interesting, too. And I don't know if it was the same. Like, I didn't run around communicating with other beings, inquiring what their toilet habits were. I mean, in fact, it never even occurred to me. Now I kind of wish I had. And I don't know if it was because that was what I needed for my experience, or whether other beings, because like I said, the ship is telepathic. It's absolutely conscious, and it knows what you need and what's going to make you most comfortable. So, so that was really cool. So then I came out of there, and she was waiting for me, and then we exited the room. And then she had me think about something that I could use to identify where approximately my quarters were, so that if I was returning on my own, I'd have no problem finding the right area. I don't think it would be a problem anyway, for a number of reasons, but that's beyond the scope of this right now. Excuse me. So I thought in my mind of a big bouquet of bright colored flowers, and suddenly it just appeared right there, kind of on the wall. And I knew that this is where I needed to go. In a short period of time after that, when I started to learn how to interface with the big ship, and my telepathy skills started to get better, I didn't need that anymore. This is just for, the very beginning in the orientation process. So the other things that's interesting about the big ship is, yes, it does move location from time to time. And when it does that, we participate in the process. And like I said, there's millions of us on the big ship. And basically what happens is, when it's time to move the big ship, we go to different areas. And of course, everything is just fully automated and is created as we need it, and then dissolved when we no longer need it. So we all found, basically just sat down and on these beautiful, comfortable, similar to a lounge chairs. And the ship would emit tones, and we would go into a deep state of meditation. It was very easy to fall into. And then after a while, because I don't know me, I just go to sleep. When I'm in a deep, deep state of meditation, often I will remember it as sleeping. And then there's different tones that are more reviving, that we would then come back to being fully conscious again. And then the ship has moved, and it goes literally from point A to point B. Point A becomes point B. There's no traveling from point A to point B. Point B becomes point A. So wherever we're heading to, we just become there. And I can't explain how that works. I know. Like I said, I don't expect anyone to believe me. I don't have all the explanation on how it all works. I'm not a scientist. I'm just pretty much just a granny here telling my experience. Check out my online shop, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, to find Zendome's orgone generators, comfort crystals, and an array of vital services, all designed to help you to become the change that you wish to see in the world. Check out my website and find many valuable resources. There's the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation. This is a free, comprehensive online course. Learn about detoxification and nutrition, grounding and spiritual practices, and an advanced version of the Law of Attraction, giving you more of what you really want out of life. I also have my Zendome's Orgonite, which is my unique brand of orgone generators. They're ethically sourced and handmade by a friend of mine, and they're double charged for maximum effect. I also carry comfort crystals, which is a limited collection of energetically infused semi-precious stones. I have an array of vital services so you can get the one-on-one support that you've been looking for. Also coaching, guidance, and I do assessments and also workshops. And then again, there are the many free resources available on my website. Wisdom to assist with energetic ascension into physical, mental, and spiritual paradise. Let us share our quantum work with you. It's your turn to heal, evolve, and thrive. Believe in your ability to succeed. Now, let's get back to the show. So that's how the big ship moved, and I experienced that a few times in my 3.5 years of being there, which was actually only the night of every night for 3 months here on Earth. I know it's a lot to wrap your head around. That's why it's taken me a long time to even come out and talk about it, because, when I watch the video afterwards, I go, oh my gosh, I'm not explaining this very well, but I'm doing the best I can. Hopefully I'll get better over time. The other thing is, what powers the big ship? Does it use fuel? Does it have to dive into a sun somewhere to get the energy? No, none of that. Actually, the big ship is fairly, I would say, energy efficient. And when it needs energy, we actually give the energy to the big ship. So similar to when we move the big ship is when we need to replenish the energy stores on the big ship. Again, we just gather together in small groups. We, I don't know, for lack of a better word, manifest a very comfortable place to relax and lounge. And the ship emits tones. We go into a deep meditative state, and we give up a little bit of our life force. And our life force is very easy for us to replenish. All we need is rest, sometimes some music, some meditation, and of course, eating really, really good quality, biologically appropriate food is another way that we replenish, our life energy. So it's not really such a big deal. Those of us who are very new, the first time I ever participated in that, and it's kind of almost like ritual or ceremony. It's very interesting. Things are taken very seriously. Now, they're not religious, but there is ceremony. Ceremony seems to be something that's super important, regardless of where we come from. All humanoids have ceremony. And so these days are not looked upon as holy days or feasting days, but they're days of kind of solemn reflection, I would say. Anyway, so after I participated in this, I felt a little bit tired afterwards. But as I mentioned in the last video, so please go back and well, I guess it's two episodes ago, I believe it's June 9th, where I talk about health and healing on the big ship. I went to one of the healing pods, and it's such a lovely experience to go to a healing pod. I just love it. And I always fall asleep because it's just so relaxing. But then you come out of the healing pod short period of time later and you feel completely refreshed. So, but most beings don't actually need to do that after replenishing the energy stores on the big ship. And just like the people, the big ship doesn't have a name. They don't have names. A lot of this experience is so far removed from the construct that we're born and raised into, and the patterns of thinking that we're accustomed to, that it is difficult to explain. But again, I'm doing my best. So another thing I wanted to say, what about housekeeping? Does everybody take turns scrubbing the walls and vacuuming? No, there's none of that there either. I would say that the environmental system, which gives us the oxygen and the different things that we need, is very much like a respiratory system, and it ebbs and it flows. And there is something that very much like when I use the washroom or the bathroom or the toilet or whatever you want to call it, it's none of those things, but anyway, as close as I can get. There's like a very fine dust that just kind of poofs out every once in a while, and it neutralizes odors or bacteria or fungus or anything like that. And it's constantly sort of being very gently sucked back into the system so that the air and the environment is always clean all the time. And of course, the beings are super clean too. And we'll get into that in a future podcast where I'm going to talk about basically the everyday goings on the big ship amongst the beings. And, rituals for cleanliness and for meditation. Meditation's big everywhere you go. It's not like just something that we do here on Earth. And so that's sort of the housekeeping system. The other thing too is if, say, we spilled something on the floor or dropped something and it broke or something, that's not a problem. The ship can just absorb it into its system. And everything gets recycled all the time. And that's what I would call its digestive system. So moving away from the ventilation or the cleaning or its respiratory system is also its digestive system. And that's tied in also to the ventilation or the atmospheric conditioner. And also it's tied into the whole circulatory system of the big ship. It's very, very cool how it all works. So everything gets recycled, everything. So at the end of the day, your clothes, anything you don't want. If you had a meal, well, of course you had a meal, but your dishes that you would use, which are very, very simple and very plain. Even everything just gets dissolved and then it gets reconstructed before we wake up. I was going to say in the morning, but that there isn't really morning or night there. But at the end of our sleep cycle. So that all that waste material goes into some kind of a system that where it becomes like fluid. Everything gets rendered down into fluid. And they actually have critters, I don't know, I call them bugs, but I don't know what they are exactly, that live in these sort of storage bladders or tanks, and they break everything down. And that is their natural environment. They're very healthy and very happy, living in that environment, and that's what they do. And they break everything down. So in that way, I'm saying it's very much like a digestive system. And then everything is recreated. Like, for instance, if I want to clothes for the next day or anything that I need, it just appears in my quarters when I wake up. It's just there. It's like really like magic, but it's actually not. It's all very biochemical and very natural. And the big ship is designed to operate that way. So yeah, and so also there's also a fluid system, which is very similar to a circulatory system. So like in the what I call the morning when we get up, we all kind of have very similar cycles. Some need more sleep, some beings need less sleep, depending on their genetics and their background. One person asked me on one of the shows that I did on somebody else's channel recently, they asked me, oh, sorry. I keep losing my train of thought because I've got all these things I want to tell you going on all at once. they asked me, yes, does everybody breathe the same composition of oxygen, and do we all have the same respiratory needs as what the big ship accommodates? And the answer is yes, but the reason is because we spend time being conditioned in these healing pods so that we can exist comfortably together on the big ship. So I think if we were in our indigenous planets and our wherever we originally came from, I think probably our needs would be more diverse, but we actually get reconditioned so that we can exist and, deal with the same oxygen content, gravity, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how that actually even would compare to Earth, because when you're there, it just all feels very, very natural. The other thing is when we get up, generally what we do before we eat or before we do go anywhere is we meet at the baths. And the baths, I know it's very interesting. It kind of reminds me of the days of the Romans and the Greeks, where they would all go and hang out in these big like swimming pools and hang out and be in water. Well, the same is true for our ET brothers and sisters. So we would spend time at the baths, and the baths the water is not actually water. I don't know what it is. It's slightly salty. It's a fluid, and it actually nourishes our bodies and revitalizes us. It's not really necessarily for cleaning. And we have the potential to have a shower or a bath in our quarters if we want to anyway. But we all gather, and it's a very relaxing time. And we just spend time together. And there isn't a lot of communication. It's just getting into the whole somatic or body sensation of being so relaxed. And we all sort of fall into a bit of a meditative state that's so deeply, deeply relaxing. It really sets the stage for a beautiful experience during what I'm going to call the day. And no, we don't wear any swimsuits when we're in there. Everybody's naked. And, and there is quite a lot of diversity, as I've mentioned before, with the beings on the big ship. And some have more hair and some have less, and different body shapes, but all pretty much very similar to human, the way we look, except many of them are actually bigger, more muscular, healthier. Some are smaller, but and of course all different kinds of diversity as far as noses and ears, much the same as what we see here on Earth. But there's no shame. There's no concept for shame. Concepts they don't have because they weren't born into a construct. These beings are at our next state of evolution. They weren't born and tethered to a construct the way we are. They don't have constructs like race, gender, religious beliefs. They don't have anything like that. They don't have anything like that. Things are just very, very relaxed and very clear and very clean, all the experiences. Then after we've, been in there for a while, then some people will go to the grooming centers and help each other, if we want to have our hair done a certain way or we want to have our head shaved or whatever, you can do that. And it's again very relaxing. Most humanoids are what we would call grooming species. No, they're not species. They're different races, same species, but we are a grooming species. And so most of us like to do things like brush each other's hair, touching. There isn't a lot of like hugging and stuff. It's just gentle touching. It's just, I don't know, very different than here, but there's no taboo. And this is completely separate than sex, which I'll talk about in another podcast, and reproduction and love. So anyway, that also happens. That same fluid flows through what I'm going to call the walls and feeds all the plant material. So all the things that we eat grow on the big ship. There's no replicators or anything like that. It's all real live food, all different kinds of fruits and vegetables. I didn't see any animals for eating when we were on the big ship. That Doesn't mean that eating meat is wrong in any way. It's just the ship was not designed to provide meat the way we understand protein and meat to be here. We could get everything we needed from the vegetable matter, and even different kinds of beautiful exotic flowers that were edible, and is really, really lovely. So it didn't matter where you went on the big ship, there was always something growing, and it always added like a subtle aromatherapy to the air, which is always nice and clean and fresh all the time. It's just really, really, I would say, the perfect union, this conscious biological big ship and all the beings on it. Really amazing experience. So let me see, I've covered the I want to talk a little bit more about the food. So these beings also like to experiment and make things and do things. It's not all intellectual. And so some beings kind of pride themselves on making edible things that are similar to what we have for different kinds of fermented foods, making things like different kinds of cheeses, things like that, and spreads and all kinds of delicacies. And that's kind of what they're kind of well known for. And then there's a lot of trade. So if you really like the jam that somebody else makes, you just can have it. There's no competition for resources, none at all. So let me see, I've covered the respiratory system, the digestive system, the circulatory system. So the other thing is, you might be wondering, well, who's the captain of the big ship? Who decides where it's going to go and what it's going to do? Well, I guess we do collectively. But what I also thought was interesting is love and affection is shown to the big ship by the beings. So the big ship has a spiritual component and an emotional component to it as well. And so when people would, often just reach out and touch the wall in a very loving way, and the wall would sort of respond. And that is how similar, I guess, in some ways to, if you want to pet your kitty and your kitty feels really loved and starts to purr. Well, the big ship doesn't purr, but it does love us. And we love it. And of course, we love each other. And in a way that I've never seen love expressed that way on planet Earth, at least not yet. Hopefully for the future. And everybody shares, and everybody's very generous. We can afford to be. There's no shortage of anything. And what I really want you to take home from this is not believe, oh, yes, this is a fact because Karen Holton said it is. What I would rather you do is take away from this an idea of how things could be different here on Earth, how we could structure society very differently, how we could structure technology very, very differently. And I think once we start to do that, we'll have more interface with beings from other worlds that can then teach us what they know about their progress and how they've come to get along and to just facilitate life, because we're here to live. We're here to have a life, a journey, a learning experience. We're here to learn how to love more fully, and we're here to learn how to allow ourselves to be loved in return. I think that's super important. And so, like I said, the beings on the big ship are at our next state of evolution. Our next, what we're stepping up to. You hear a lot of people talk about the ascension work. Well, that's what ascension is all about. It's about casting off these old, obsolete ways of thinking and doing and being, and adopting new ways, novel ways of being and loving and doing things that cause no harm. You see, without an economic system the way we have on Earth, it's not based on money. It's actually based on development, personal development, emotional development, and having the best life or living journey we can possibly have. And I think that's really something pretty amazing. So just thinking if there's anything I left out about the big ship. It's alive. It's in this interdimensional interface area. all these different dimensional realities that we talk about, they're all happening all at the same time in the same place without distance or time. If you can wrap your head around that, you can get a better understanding of what it's like to be on the big ship. And the other thing too is people often say, well, Karen, I want to go to the big ship too. And I'm going, yeah, I guess you'd love it. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know why. Well, I do know why I've been given my memories. Generally, people, I've been told that probably millions and millions of people on Earth are having experiences very much like mine. But the difference is most don't remember, and they agree to forget because it's very difficult to continue on your life journey and your own personal journey here on Earth once you've experienced that. So the hardest thing about being away is having to come back and face the Earth realities that we're facing, especially in these crazy times, contemporary times we're living in. But these are growth pains that we have to go through in order to level up, basically. And they also are not afraid of death because as it was shown to me, we live and die many times. In fact, we have been ET, and ET's been us. And there's just we're unlimited in our potential, and in that way we don't have to be afraid. Now, it's not like you want to run out and die, and I definitely advise against suicide, because if you can hang in there and do your life journey the best way you can, you're going to evolve and level up, and the next iteration is going to be much, much better. And this is an iteration. So although we want to take it very seriously, we don't want to squander it at all. But at the same time, if it removes the fear of death, what a powerful, powerful thing that is, that we can then get on with our lives and be the best that we can be, instead of feeling like we have to conform in order to survive this short time. And, when you get older, I'm 67 years old, and when you get older, weeks fly by faster than days used to. I can remember when I was a kid, I'd come in and I want something to eat, and Mom would say, go out and play and come back in an hour and supper will be ready. And you'd go out and play for an hour, and you'd have adventure after adventure. It would just seem like an eternity. Well, now I'm getting out of my pajamas in the morning, and next thing I know, I'm putting them back on. I'm going, what the heck? I may as well just stay in my pajamas. Like, the days just flip, flip, flip. The weeks flip, flip, flip. The months flip, flip, flip. The years are flipping by, and because I'm not afraid of death, I can just embrace each day and live it to the fullest. And so I really, really recommend that. So again, the takeaway from this isn't, oh, well, Karen did this and Karen did that, and the big ship is this and the big ship and that is that. The takeaway is, this is a template that we can incorporate into our personal and our collective lives that can help us in our journeys and to have everything we ever dream possible. Paradise is absolutely possible here on planet Earth. And with that, I'm going to say, I hope you have the best week ever. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for joining me, for subscribing and for commenting and liking my videos. You've been ever so generous with me, and I appreciate each and every one of you so very much. So I got another video coming out. I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks, so there won't be very many videos, because I'm going to be with my grandbabies, and they're 4-year-old twins, and they're going concerns, and I'm not going to get a lot of free time to make videos, and I'm going to be so tired at night, I'm going to crash early and get up early because they get up early. So, but I will be back at the end of the month, and I'm going to interview a wonderful lady who has also had amazing interdimensional relationships with beings, and she's going to tell you all about it. So I do hope you come back for that. And in the meantime, please do check out the Quantum Guide Show, which is my weekly show where I interview people, amazing people from all over the world. Last week, I had a young man on who had a very terrible accident, and his back was broken in several places. And he went in, and they had to put in all the nuts and bolts to put them together, and that didn't work out very well. And he went back in and had them remove everything. And then he ended up, through meditation and his own method of regenerating himself. He regenerated a new spine for himself. So if you want to check out some of the past episodes of the Quantum Guide Show, you're going to meet some amazing, amazing people that have done some amazing things. It's such a privilege to be a talk show host and to be able to meet all these people and learn about their journeys and the wonderful things they're doing. It's very, very exciting. So if you haven't started a YouTube channel, I recommend you do. We all have experiences. We all have a voice. We all have something important to say. You know, it's really great. Anyway, I love you. I wish you the very best week ever. Take good care of yourselves. You matter. You absolutely do matter. And I'll see you next time on either the Quantum Guide Show or Aliens and Angels. Bye-bye for now, everybody.